everyone, and welcome to the season finale of the QI podcast. Special shout out to our producers at Angry Bull Productions. We have come to the final part of my conversation with Dr. Susan Rogers, and we're discussing her career as an engineer and a producer with my favorite artist in the entire world, Prince Rogers Nelson. As we continue on, check this out.
When you got word of his passing, do you remember where you were, what you were doing at the time?
Yeah, it was ironic. I had a sabbatical that spring, and I was doing what I had worked 16 years to be able to do. 8 years of college to earn a PhD, 8 years of working at Berkeley to earn that sabbatical. I was in the laboratory, my little lab space, and I was collecting data on a participant doing the work that I had trained so hard and so long to do. And then my phone just started blowing up from the Berkeley's Department of Media and Publicity, and they said that Prince had passed away and that local stations were contacting Berkeley to ask for comment. So that's where I got the news. Just 10 days earlier, Wendy and Lisa had left Boston to go back to Los Angeles. Wendy and Lisa spent a week with us as artists in residence at Berkeley, and I had that whole week to get reacquainted. This is early April, so I had the whole week to spend with Wendy and Lisa, whom I hadn't seen since the 90s. We got reacquainted, we spent time together, we did a session together. I mean, it was just great to see them. And sure enough, just a little over a week later after they left, Prince passed away. You know.
You didn't leave music when you left Prince. You went to continuing to work on music as a studio engineer with other artists. Can you tell us about some of the other artists that you worked with?
Right, so after Prince, I worked as an engineer, and the first client I had after Prince was the Jacksons, and I got to stay at their, they did an album, a forgotten album called 2300 Jackson Street, but I stayed with them for 3 months out there at the family compound on Havenhurst in Encino. The mom and dad lived there, and some of Jackie was there a lot. I spent most of my time with Jackie. Jermaine was there quite a bit. Nice guys. Michael technically lived there, but he was building Neverland at that time. This was 1988, so he was just building Neverland. But he was out on tour. I don't remember the name of the tour he was on, but anyway, he was out. But the animals were there, you know, the llamas and the deers and the parrots, and it was actually pretty great. They were a really nice family and treated me well. I did engineering for a variety of clients, and mostly I got picked up by folks in alternative indie, and so I did a lot of those records. Then eventually I started getting asked to do more mixing and then record production, as you do if you've been making records long enough. So I had, as a record producer, I had a big hit in 1998 with Bare Naked Ladies, a record that went multi-platinum. With that money, that big royalty money we used to make back in those days, I decided to leave the business in 2000.
Was that the decision?
Oh, I had been planning that for some time. I had been planning it because I thought that I might enjoy going to college. I was a high school dropout. I never had even finished high school. But as I started approaching and getting into my 40s, I recognized there's something else I'd like to try. I have no husband, no children, so nobody else's life depends on me. It's just me. So once I had that hit record, I was free to pursue a second career path.
Wow. And so what is it that you do at Berkeley now?
So after I got my PhD, they hired me at Berkeley to teach in 2 departments. My home department is music production and engineering. So I teach record production to our young Berkeley musicians, wonderful kids. I teach the analog tape class, but also I teach the work of my doctoral degree. I teach psychoacoustics and for Berkeley Online music cognition.
Do you find that people are still interested in analog?
The kids are, yeah, they think it's cool. Right now with COVID, we can't have the analog tape class because you have to gather around a tape machine. So we'll probably have to wait until maybe this fall. But yeah, the students are really interested in it. It's like the difference between film and video. Video is high contrast, heavy saturation with the colors. Video is convenient. Everybody who's got a phone can take a video, a digital video. But film has that warmth to it. It's more expensive, you need specialized equipment, but still it gives you a technique and a style rather that you wouldn't have otherwise. And it's the same thing with analog. If you can get a tape machine and get the tape, the sound of it is pretty cool.
I learned through watching your interviews that you have a friendship, I guess it is, with Keith Shockley.
Oh, yes. Hank Shockley, not Keith. Hank.
How did you guys meet? Because they actually DJ'd my prom.
Now, I was a Public Enemy fan from the earliest days, and Hank is kind of a friend of the college. Many folks in many departments know him, so I was truly starstruck when he came. And sometimes he comes to our department and he gives guest lectures. But he gave a talk in our department one night, and I'll just never forget it, because he talked about being a young man in New York and meeting Chuck D. And he talked about how he and his friends were using technology, cassette decks and stuff and amplifiers, to just do something totally new. And I think he's about my age, and I just remember thinking, oh, I wish I could have been your friend. He described a life that was different from my own, but the kind that, had I known him, had we been friends and grown up in a similar neighborhood, I could see myself wanting to go down that path. I don't have his artistic talent, but I could have helped with the technical side of it. Anyway, yeah, he's an amazing record maker, somebody I idolize. When he does come back to Berkeley now and then, we try to have a meal or just talk, because he's got some interest in neuroscience. So it's kind of nice to spend time with him.
Have you worked on any hip hop records or albums?
No, unfortunately, no. What ends up happening in the business is you'll be tapped by makers of records in certain genres because the sonic signature you have complements what they do. Mm-hmm. I wanted, after I left Prince, I wanted to work in R&B. Barney Perkins, an engineer named Barney Perkins, he had the career I wanted. I wanted his career. But I wasn't getting those calls to do those records. Instead, I was getting called by the alternative indie folks and some of the rock stuff. I found out later that was actually a good thing, because my ear is always going to go toward the rhythm section. I love bass and drums, and I love soul music, and I have my whole life. So if I can bring a soul sensibility to the foundation, to the bottom end of a rock or a pop or an alternative indie record, I'm fanning out the flavors in a way that gives them something that maybe another engineer wouldn't give. So that's kind of that's kind of what happened. I did some mixing with Tevin Campbell for the producer Al B. Sure, and I was in New York, and oh, I was so happy. I could have taken a lot more of those records, but again, you end up where you are because, just like hiring a cinematographer on a film, you've just got a certain aesthetic or perspective that complements that of others.
Now, with you being a professor at Berkeley, your schedule's busy. But if a Jay-Z or a Beyonce or an Alicia Keys were to call and say, Susan, I would love to have you on my next album, would you take on that project, or would you say no, thank you?
No, I would not. I would not take it on. I mean, wow, I mean, that would be a real dream to be asked. But record making is, for the most part, it's by, for, and about young people. And it's it's past my time. It's past my time. It's time for the youth of today should be doing the mixing and the engineering. I don't know about the production, but they should be doing the engineering and the mixing because they're the young they're the youngsters. It's their music. It's for them. It's about them. And they are the ones I think who should be contributing to it. I've got plenty to do, and I had more than my share. It would be greedy of me to take something like that when I've had more than enough. It's time the others can have it.
Wow. Okay. How do you, seems like you've achieved so much. How do you find ways to challenge yourself now?
I'm challenged every minute of every day. I've 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 taken on an awful lot of work. Berkeley keeps us very busy, but I'm currently writing a book. I had a co-author invite me last year. He said, "Would you like to write a book about what you know about music listening, especially listening to music from the perspective of a record producer and a neuroscientist and a non-musician," which is what I am, and it's different kind of ear than musician's ear. Anyway, my co-author invited me, and I said yes, and we got signed to a big deal last February with Norton. So I'm working on the book right now, and I've got a research project going on. So I'm pushing myself to try to do something great.
I would love to know when that comes out.
Oh,
And any short-term or long-term goals that you have on your plate that you'd like to achieve? Anything you're reaching for?
what I want to do is what I want to do is do a great job on this book. I want this book to be great. I know from experience, people don't do great the first time out. And this is my first book. Now, my co-author is experienced, but the ideas in it are my ideas. So I have to be able to express myself. So the big challenge right now is trying to do something for the first time and do it really, 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 really well. Like it's a little bit like making a record, only this time I'm the artist, not the producer. This is my vision, these are my ideas. So it's difficult, and yet I want it very badly. So I'm working really hard to get that done. And then after that, I've got a research project going on. I want to get that completed and published. But after that is retirement. And when I retire, I can take it easy a little bit, and I can do the studying and the kind of writing in the sciences that I enjoy doing.
Any pressure with the book? Do you feel any pressure with trying to get the book accomplished in the way that you want it done?
Yeah, I mean they make it tough. So I'm told that authors always want 2 years to get it done. Publishers always want 1 year. You settle on 18 months. So we'll turn it in August. We're on track. We're gonna meet our deadline. We'll turn it in August, and then they take like 9 months to put it out there. But there will be, just like in the music business, there will be reviews. There will be, maybe some people like it, maybe some people think, oh, this is crap. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. It's nerve-wracking, but putting myself in that position of kind of being sort of like the artist this time gives me a greater empathy for what our musical artists do when they put themselves out there. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to do.
Did Prince feel any pressure when he was making these music, or he just didn't even think about it? He just zoned out.
I think he did. I think he did constantly. I think he was constantly aware of public opinion, and the stories are quite a lot of stories on his competition with Michael Jackson, which I know he enjoyed. No, he enjoyed. He loved that. He loved competition. He thrived on pressure. He did well under those conditions, but he kept pressuring himself. He needed to please himself more than anyone else.
Did that make him more intense while working on music?
I think so. And I didn't see him, he wouldn't overtly admit to being disappointed in himself, but you could sense when he was experiencing disappointment, either with other people or with himself. So pardon me, when he was disappointed in something that he had done, ooh, it was bad for all the rest of us. If he was disappointed, he wasn't going to bed, which meant we were going to keep working and working and working until he got to a point where he felt his work was satisfactory. And if he really was disappointed, he would be in a really bad mood. And he was a funny guy because he didn't like being in a bad mood. He hated self-pity. He hated depression. He had no time for those two emotions, no time for it at all. So when he would feel a hint of maybe self-pity or disappointment in himself, he'd work his way out of it so that he didn't feel that.
Now, I hear that his sound checks were also like concerts, whereas the average band maybe do 15, 20-minute sound check. I'm hearing that his sound checks were like 2-hour, 3-hour sound checks.
Yeah, he loved that. Yeah, if we could get to a city and get set up in time, fast enough so that at least audio was running. Maybe they hadn't finished hanging all the lights or anything, the backdrops, but audio was running. He'd take the stage the minute he could. And I think it was a little bit annoying for the band because often he'd get on the stage by himself. He'd send Alan Leeds and others to find the band wherever they were, the hotel, or maybe they're out sightseeing or something, get them on the stage. He'd be up there for a long time just playing with the drum machine or playing piano or playing guitar till the band joined him. And he'd if he was, this is what I'm fond of saying, if he were awake, he wanted to have a musical instrument in his hands. And if he had a musical instrument in his hands, he wanted to be recording. So anytime, for most of his day, he was playing something. I watched years ago a documentary on Jimi Hendrix, and it was a former girlfriend of Hendrix who said, it's always stuck with me, Hendrix would get up in the morning, put on his guitar, and be playing his guitar as he walked to the bathroom. Like just a few steps, he'd be playing his guitar. He played constantly. Prince was similar in that if he's awake, these fingers want to be making music, and as long as he's making music, he wants it to be recorded. So that's why I was with him every day during that period when I worked for him, because he was always recording, always playing.
And it's crazy because, you know, he's always recording tours, sound check, concert, then there'll be an after show somewhere, which was just as long as a concert, I would assume.
Yeah.
Did you ever see him tired?
Ooh, he's a funny guy. You wouldn't see him tired very often. He'd work to the point where he'd start to flag a little bit, and then the dreaded request to bring him a cup of coffee or a tea, and you knew if he's drinking coffee, drinking tea, he is pushing himself to keep going. So you knew you were going to be there for a while. But sometimes, one time, my colleague Sal Greco, who was the tech who joined after he moved me into the engineering position, Sal came and did the tech work. And Sal stayed with him a long time. Sal was with him for years. After I left, Sal told me he was in the studio with Prince, and they just finished a long all-nighter. And Prince said, "Man, I'm tired." And Sal just exploded. He just said, "He said it. He said he's tired. He said he's tired." And Prince said, "What is wrong with you?" And Sal was just like bouncing off the walls. "He's tired. He's tired." I'll tell you another story also that didn't come from me, but it's a sweet story. We were doing the first Madhouse album. The Madhouse album was Prince on drums, piano, bass, and it was Eric Leeds on saxophone. And we did it in 4 days. 4 days to do this whole record. And we were at Prince's home studio on Galpin Road, and I was there and recording it. And Todd Harriman, who was our keyboard tech with the Fairlight, Todd was a piano player himself, sweet guy. Prince really liked him a lot. So sweet. And anyway, Todd was there. And after we finished this song, Todd, who was a shy fellow, just said to Prince, "Prince, how do you just go upstairs and go to bed after knowing you just did something like that?" And Todd told me that at that moment, and these moments were rare, Prince just dropped the Prince veil And he said very candidly to Todd, he said, "That's the problem, Todd. I can't go to sleep."
I
And
think we're going to end this on that note. Dr. Rogers,
mm,
thank you so much. This was truly a blessing. And I just thank you for your time and the stories that you shared. I wish you good luck with your book. And please let me know when it comes out, because I definitely want to read it and learn from you. And I hope that I could bring you back after the book comes out and we could talk
oh,
about
that would be
the book.
wonderful. I would enjoy
I would
it.
love that. Thank you so much. I hope
All
you have a
right,
great
Keith.
rest of the day, and thank you for your time.
You too, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
And that concludes this episode of the QI Podcast, our third and final episode of the season with Dr. Susan Rogers. I want to thank her once again for giving us a piece of her time and a piece of her history. I also like to thank all of the people who participated with us this season. Jasmine Von Hall, Jill Jones, Kimberly Jones, Irene Florio, Dr. Matt Fink of The Revolution. Thank you all for being a part of the QI Podcast this year. If you have any questions, if you want to send us any comments, you can hit us up at the QIpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up on our social mail. Of course, it's Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, the QI Podcast. We also like to thank our special producers, Angry Bull Productions. We like to thank Xfinity Channel 16 and Cliff King. We want to thank all of you viewers, all of you listeners in every city, every state, every country that has supported us. It's been a fantastic season. It's been a surprising season. It's been a successful season. I've definitely enjoyed it. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed it, and you continue to check us out. You continue to give us feedback. And hopefully, just maybe, you'll see me in season 4 of the QI Podcast. Until then, God bless you all, and we'll see you soon. Peace.